We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which this project is created, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We would also like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Settle down and gather round for another tale. In the world of Nua, where time has carved and cultivated a magical utopia of wonder, a small group of adventurers unlock the deep mysteries of the land, its people, and themselves. Welcome to the Down Under Dungeon podcast.
Dear Susanna, one thing you should never do is bring a druid into an underground animal fighting ring. I'm not one to support harsh treatment of living creatures, but Feng, as you'd know by now, is reluctant to indulge in animal exploitation. Only minutes into the fight, a stampede of animals, newly freed from their cages by Feng and Promi, crashed into the patrons of the betting arena and swept us all back to the surface of the mead hall. We managed to hold our own, despite sweeping up the ringmaster as we went and my whole body tripping and falling at almost every obstacle. The damage of the uproar, caused by several dozen wild animals bucking and fighting their way out into the cold frozen air, drew the young dwarven King Bonebreaker, Jarl of Caerfrostia, from his rooms above. Peering through his impressive facial hair, he spied our conspicuous group of non-dwarves, immediately assuming we were the cause of the ruckus. Lysandra attempted to assuage some of the blame and was, even in her inebriated state, mildly successful, buying us just enough time for Holly to emerge from behind the king, looking artfully rumpled, and coerce him back to whatever adult activities they were undertaking. As they retreated, we were spat back out into the cold to make our way back to the Halyghast, with the Beastmaster from the fighting ring still strapped to Feng's back. Denis fleeced him of his gold, and Feng put him to work, making a sling for Patrick's injured wing, and we all bedded down for the night. In the morning, waking early as an older woman I am wont to do, I made my way down to the docks to dip my toe into a little bit of the community here, chatting with some of the fisherwomen repairing the sails. They were superstitious people, with tales of storm-stealing sailors and mermaids further east. And who would you bet I encountered on my way back to the ship? Holly, looking flawless as ever, stopping me for a little chat about everything. Through that steely expression, I sensed her genuine fear of me. And I think I finally understand how my captain, who betrayed us so openly all those months ago, works. A rebel against a system rigged to contain her. Liberty is what she craves, and she is terrified to lose what little she has managed to gain. Gives me at least a little insight into the woman who keeps herself so perfectly contained. It is funny how you get to know people when you travel with them. And so for now, I'll keep you updated. I'm yours as always, Louis.
Are you boot shooting?
My boot shooting babies.
No, wait, copyright.
Merry 2025, everyone.
Welcome back.
The laws of the old world no longer apply. We can use copyrighted music now that World War III started.
The last time we left off, the Wellspringers were in Caerfrostia, and they have just departed. But before we catch up with them, our party has leveled to level 6.
Yes, baby.
Try and kill us now.
Well, that may depend on your hit dice that you are about to roll for your HP. So, let's just go around the table one at a time, and you can let us know what your new HP total is. Feng, let's start with you.
Alrighty. So, level 5, I had 37. That's a 6 on the D8. So at level 6, I'm going to have 46 hit points.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
And Promi has 35.
There's a chunky ball.
Chunky little chicken.
The gas chicken.
Yeah, I imagine every level he gets more feathers.
It grows a little bit bigger.
Yeah, it grows a little bit bigger. I feed him a few more bugs.
Amber, do you want to roll for Lysandra?
I would love to. So at level 5, I had 37 hit points. And with the 10 on the dice, I now have 48.
Whoa.
There we go.
Oscar, Denis.
Alrighty. Denis at level 5 had 44 hit points. So rolling my d8. 5 plus 2 is 7 for a total of 51 hit points.
Wonderful.
Shit.
Beefy boy.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of soup. Oh, and Denny is finally getting his artificer subclass. He's an alchemist, but instead of potions and elixirs, it's soups. It's soups and stews and various other liquid foods.
So more heart stew.
More heart stew, yeah.
Love it.
More fucked soups, but they'll do cool stuff now. It won't just be horrible roleplay food.
Georgia, can you roll for Louis for me?
I would love to. That is a 1. So
We get to reroll ones once.
Oh, okay. Sure. I will take that. At level 5, I had 35. It's a 4 on the dice, plus 1 with my constitution, so it's going to be 40 in total.
Nice.
Nice.
Wonderful.
We're getting up there. We're getting there.
Pretty good that you guys are leveling now because you are just about to begin your thrust eastward to Shadowfell, but we are finding the party just as you are leaving Caer Frostia. The gloom of the day desists and the beginning of winter bites its teeth deep into the hold of Caer Frostia. Disgruntled dwarves descend from the dock onto the thin ice, using picks to chip away and release the Halyghast from its temporary prison. Charity swoops down in her nightly duties, chittering delightedly with her notes gathered of the lost god Brokia, lighting lanterns in the riggings. Holly, now wearing an opulent black fur overcoat and hat given to her by the Tundra King, barks orders from the helm, sending riggers and powder monkeys skittering into the sails and below deck. Grick hauls rope to adjust the forward sails, while Plimp secures the line behind him. The arcane engine powers up. The cool voice of Q2 welcomes you back to your voyage, and the Halyghast begins to rise from the water and into the air. With winter fast approaching, the optimal time to cross to the land of shadow is slowly shrinking upon the crew. You observe the small forms of Rhinebeards busying themselves about the city as you begin to meander your way back out of the fjord. As the twinkling lights of Caer Frostia begin to dwindle in the gloom, the party pushes ever eastward, beyond the frontier. Where do we find our Wellspringers, and what are they up to?
Denny is going to rush up to Louis, very excitedly brandishing a knife at her. I was just going to say, Louis, watch this, watch this. No, remember when we went to do the cooking competition and the guy had the special knife that opens the portal to the other realm?
How did you get that knife?
Never mind.
Okay.
Paid a lot of money and a good man was lost. And he's going to cut open a Denny's planar pantry.
Louise's jaw falls open as she looks into this rift in reality, kind of turns slack-jawed to you. I'm not going to ask how, unless you want to tell me, but that's amazing. What's your plans with it? Can we, live in it? Can we take it with us?
Look, to be perfectly honest, I did not get an instruction manual with this thing, but I say let's fuck around and find out a bit, you know? Denny's going to jump into the planar pantry just to see if it's survivable.
Yeah, you, Denny, jump into the planar pantry. It has been cleared out, obviously, from its previous owner, so it is literally this small, completely dark space. You see there's one solitary, dead cockroach on the ground. But it is essentially an enormous pantry in here. You've got barrels and you've got shelves lining either side. It's the same constant temperature. But it appears that the magic only exists as a pantry would. So this isn't like a Lehman's tiny hut situation. This is more of the ultimate storage container. And if you lock yourself in your own storage container, you might suffocate.
Fabulous. Can Denny go up to the dead cockroach and use his magical tinkering to make it shed light? as a little bit of illumination in his
Go for
space.
it.
You're going to do that. Louis sticks her head in with a candle, and then the thing lights up. It's like, oh, okay, don't do that.
No. Do not bring fire in here. We have limited oxygen supply. Denny doesn't know much about science, but he knows, okay, if you don't have any air, that's going to be bad. So
as long as the rift's open, it just more seems like you can have people walk into the pantry if you've got the pantry door open, that's fine. But you can't have people in here and lock the door. You know what I mean?
Or do we know how long that is for?
It will be a Constitution saving throw after X amount of minutes, depending on how many people are in there.
Sure, totally.
But this is not designed to hold people.
But It could.
It could.
We're just gonna have a bunch of dead bodies in our pantry of the people we shove in this hole.
C'est la vie. We will find out as we journey onwards.
If you feed me human stew, I might be a little annoyed.
As Denny's sort of poking his head in and out of the pantry, like, it's quite nice in here. Guys, come and have a look. And he's going to gesture over to Feng and Lysandra to come and check out Denny's planet pantry.
Feng not present for the conversation about fire burning up oxygen. Is just going to light his body on fire and start to walk into the pantry.
Okay, it is fine while the door is open. If you are in here when the door is shut, do not light any fires, I beg of you.
Lysandra coming over is going to pipe up, okay, chef.
So you see most of the crew is busy making way and getting the Halyghast out of this area, and so you are all able to steal a minute inside Denny's pocket plane. It is quite cozy in here, especially with Feng. But you do see the dead cockroach in the middle of the circle is shedding this chocolate brown light. Disgusting.
Beautiful.
Feng will ask, Denny, can you change the colour to anything else? Does it have to be that poo brown colour?
No, Denny, you can't see.
As good as... I have an answer for that. No. It can shed light. It is not very powerful. I would not be fucking with this too much.
Feng will probably take the opportunity to say as well, I guess now that we have a moment alone, it's probably good that I catch you up on everything that happened while we split ways in Kefrosia, and he'll just quickly tell the story about what happened with the dwarves, about what happened when he met the tinkerers that made Promy's lamp, and explain that he has now made a deal that should he find the Phoenix and be able to take some of their flame and use it, he has made a plan for the dwarves to make more of these lamps, and he will send the fire around to the rest of the cities in Nua. And he'll just ask, I kind of just started thinking that maybe they were the ones who the prophecy was talking about. They were the ones who seemed in the past to have coveted the flame for themselves. And so, look, I can't guarantee that good things will happen because of this, but I have to make sure something happens, right?
Louie gets like a proud little smile on her face as she gets like a little bit of warmth in her chest of like this slightly rebellious community building. And she just kind of moves up and can't reach your shoulder, but like taps you on the elbow, is like, you're doing good things, kiddo. That's amazing.
I know that bad things can happen because of this. Like, I know that some of the cities may use their flame for the wrong things, but I suppose we as fire druids were not here to kind of dictate what people did with it. And that's kind of what it feels like has happened. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you've got to have faith in the power of community, of the people that are amongst it to do good things with it, and that amongst those that might be bad eggs, that the community can help tamp it down.
And they'll deal with the consequences of if they do the wrong thing.
Exactly.
So anyone else get up to anything crazy?
Well, Lysandra, how'd you enjoy our wine tastings? What happened to you earlier that afternoon that provided that amount of excess?
My sword was taken, and I wasn't happy about it, and I might have gone a little bit overboard, but to be completely fair, Louis, we were told to have fun.
We were. It was great wine. I kept lying it to you. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing.
And then I won a drinking competition, so...
True.
Yeah,
against dwarves. That's impressive.
Someone named Rock Groin. I remember that.
Yeah, Denny's gonna pipe up like, seriously, how did you do that? Did you have some sort of like a constitution potion beforehand or something? How did you fucking beat the dwarf?
I'm just that amazing at drinking, obviously.
Denny's
all your
gonna
hearts do.
Denny's gonna like stand up a little straighter, just like, holy shit. Lysandra's got a new lease on life.
Lysandra kind of like puffs her chest out a little bit. Like, yeah, I'm pretty cool, Denny.
Yeah, cool people definitely say that they're cool. You're so right.
And then, well, because my sword was taken, I had to go and get it back. I had to do a lot of paperwork. I don't ever want to do that again. And yeah, that was about it.
Louis gives you just a take no shits, like, eyebrow raise. So you're telling me that your sword being taken from you was enough to send you in this kind of a spiral? Was there some connection that was severed there, or is it just the emotional attachment you have to this thing? Because that's curious of a reaction. I mean, I know we haven't seen each other in a while, but, like, you good?
Lysandra sort of calmly puts a hand on her sword. Why do you care?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Can't a girl have fun?
You can absolutely have fun, and I want you to have a lot of fun. I'm just a little worried about this.
You don't need to be worried. Why are you worried?
Feng uncomfortably looks away.
Then he starts making popcorn.
Just
Keep going, Zoe.
Last time I checked, Louis, you weren't my mum.
Sure, I'm not your mom, but I have been keeping an eye on you this entire time. I know how things work. I know how you have built yourself up to this point, and something changed since I last saw you with that sword. There's a different kind of power there, and I worry that it's taking you away from yourself. You seem to be desperately trying to prove yourself to something again. Forgive me for being concerned.
I understand where you're coming from, especially after everything that happened with Quig, and I'm sorry. But I don't need you looking over me anymore, looking after me, keeping an eye out on me. I have my own priorities now. I have someone else keeping an eye on me. I don't need you.
How does that make Louis feel, Georgia?
There's a stillness that comes over Louis. Usually she's fidgety, flighty, she's constantly doing something, moving something. Something about her is always moving in some kind of breeze or dance, and that all stops. As she looks at Lysandra, just kind of squares herself up to her not very tall height, nods, acknowledges it, and says, okay,
Okay.
it's your life. You live it.
Louis, you recall not 12 hours ago the face of Holly saying how much that you scare her. And I think in this moment you begin to question, you know why you're here, but do you know why you're here? Why you're here and not anywhere else?
Yeah, I think in that silence, as the flightiness kind of stops, there is a bit more gravity to Louis as she's standing there. And as she kind of backs off of Lysandra and just kind of takes her in a little moment of space, it is a stillness that is holding a moment, and it feels like a moment. It feels like a pause in everything as she considers. And then it breaks, and she looks at all of you and she says, well, for speaking of lives and how people are living them, is there anyone that wants to help me try to get through to Quig?
Denny is going to pipe up and say, yeah, I do not know who Quig is, but absolutely I will help you.
Cool, the guy in the gem who's powering the ship who's talking? Yeah.
Yeah, oh no, I meant I never met the guy.
Oh, yeah. you get to
I'm
meet-
aware of who the boat is.
Yes.
I'm across the boat.
Feng will also offer to help, though I don't know what much Feng will be able to do for you, but he'll, of course.
Lou kind of smiles her thanks at both of you and just sort of nods at Lysandra.
Sure, I'll help, but I don't think he really wants to talk to me after I fucked up.
I'm not going to try to give you any advice through this. You don't want that. So I'm just going to let you sit and know how wrong you are in that sentence. And is going to turn and walk out of the pantry.
Feng will whisper to Denny on their way out. He'll just, as quietly as he can, he'll be like,
The girlies are fighting.
I didn't realize they'd fight so much. Is there a way that we can, stop this?
Denny, not knowing what's happening, is going to look confidently at Feng and go, yes, and then walk out of the pantry.
Feng's got a new mission.
Currently, you have travelled 3,675 miles into your journey, approximately a sixth of the way on your maps to the Umbra Isles. A long and arduous voyage is ahead of you. As usual, per week, distance travelled is determined by sailing, navigation, and morale. The weaker the checks throughout the week, the slower the journey. Every 2 weeks, the ship will roll a morale check, determining the feeling aboard and whether priorities must be weighed differently. From Care Frostia, the Halyghast's morality score is at 1, with a max of 5, and obviously a negative of -5. So, for the first week of sailing, I've pre-rolled Charity and Holly's checks. You are able to travel another 3,725 miles, but you are now 1 day behind for setbacks. Can everyone please let the audience know what their passive insight is?
Denny's passive insight is 11.
Louis' passive insight is a 17.
Feng's is also a 17.
Lysandra's passive insight is a 10.
So, with those passive insights, I'm going to give you a description of ship happenings over the week of travel, so that you are now able to go back and say, ooh, I want to talk to this NPC from this happening, I want to check up with my other PC and this happening.
Fun.
For the first week, you notice 2 things of interest, and this is just gossip within the party, what you notice throughout your day. Grick. Being the largest, strongest, and deafest of the crew, Grick has taken a liking to the care of mantelopes. Whether this is merely to escape the crew or because he actually likes Patrick and Cecilia is unclear, as his disgruntled expression barely seems to change. And so you see Grick spending more and more time with the mantelopes and taking feeding buckets from Feng and things like that. The other thing you notice is Plimp and Daisy. With Louis's lessons and Daisy's practice, the tension has somewhat eased aboard, with Daisy using her thaumaturgy to spook and frighten any rogues who tease her. She oft practices in the mess hall, shooting nervous glances at Denis as he attempts to woo Plimp with extra portions and special splice bends. Just the messiest love triangle is developing on board the Halyghast quickly.
I demand a detailed breakdown of every interaction, right?
How detailed do you want?
Yeah.
It seems Daisy just doesn't have the confidence to do anything about it, nor the emotional intelligence to navigate that situation if she was ever to find herself in it. What do you do for your first week?
I mean, Denny's gonna riz up Plim with my incredible charisma.
And I suppose Feng will talk to Grick along with Patrick and Cecilia.
Denny, what have you been doing coming out of Carefrostia? Obviously, you've been packing your new pantry, organising it or disorganising it. I don't know how you would do so. But how are you keeping morale high as the chef as you move eastward into the unknown?
I think Denny is experimenting with soups and trying to make them, instead of just food that tastes weird and or bad, is trying to make them good and or magical and is basically using the crew of the Halyghast as guinea pigs for his experimental elixirs, except for Climp, who he is trying really hard to cook actually good food for. And once we are out of ballista and cannon range of Carefrostia, Denny is going to rebuild Pud because he kept a couple of extra apples left over and, can reform him wherever with his artificer infusions. So
that poor Rhymebeard is just going to wake up one morning to a puddle of golden apples.
Yeah, absolutely. They can't both exist at one time, but it will retain Pud's consciousness. So
oh my god,
Pud was there. Just one morning his body will decompose on this poor Ivan fella and he will wake up on the ship.
Don't tell him too many times. He'll start to resent you and build an army against you.
No, I'm going for a Blade Runner thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a Tinkerer's check for Pud, and then also a cooking check to see how well you have been performing. You can cook well for the crew. This is for Plimp.
Yeah, for Plimp. Plimp's hard to impress. Alright, excellent. So that's a +6 for the cooking check we'll do first. That's a 9 total.
And your Tinkerer's check?
Oh, and the Tinkerer's check. Tinkerer's check is just a +3. That's a nat 20 on the Tinkerer's check.
You see one night
Perfect Pud.
The shit that I couldn't give a fuck how Pud it turns out, but I care so much about Plimp.
One particular night in the mess hall, Denny, you were dishing out gruel into these wooden bowls. Plimp comes up in the line and you hastily pull out a sachet of special, really expensive spices and try and put it in there. You see Plimp looks at you putting something into her food and just kind of brushes it off. She'll her metabolism will take care of it eventually. And you see as you look beadily at her as she tastes it, a grimace flashes across her face and she hands her portion to one of the sailors next to her.
That's the meanest thing you've ever done.
Hey, this is the dynamic, okay? Daisy wants Denny, Denny doesn't want Daisy. Denny wants Plimp, Plimp doesn't want Denny.
Oh my god, I can't keep up.
Denny's gonna try and... can I roll a deception check to hide my feelings?
You can, but just as you do, the oven timer goes off and you pull out your roasted apple homunculus and you see Pud rising again from the baking sheet, but you've perfected it almost this time. It's kind of a handsome Squidward effect. Like you see there's much more structure in the gluten, like he's got more of a jawline, more of a fuller cheek. His eyes aren't so like lopsided, but you still see you've got to work on the vocal structure because he still sounds like a typewriter full of cats falling down the stairs.
Pud's had the Ozempic effect.
Yeah, Denny's gonna like fan his face from the heat of the oven, but also the heat of Pud. I'm gonna say, Pud's a glow up. I gotta tell you, man, you look good, buddy.
And you see Plimp's eyebrows raise at this Adonis of an apple.
It's a love square.
Nothing should ever be described as an Adonis of an apple.
Feng, you were sitting at the back of one of the tables in the mess hall and you feel your sleeve being tugged and you turn around to the rancid breath of Grig. Like, just so many rotten teeth in there.
Gross. Morning, Grig, how you going?
Well, it's actually nighttime, Feng. Like, we're literally eating dinner right now.
Can I try to fuck Grick? I'm into Grick now.
No.
Fair enough.
Feng throws his dinner at Denny across the table. Food fight! Feng will try and move on with this part of the conversation and just comment to Grick that he's noticed. Hey Grick, I've noticed that you've taken a bit of a liking to Cecilia and Patrick. Yeah, do you got any more than or no? Okay. Well, is there something that you like about them? Do you enjoy taking care of animals? Have you always liked animals?
Soft tongue. It's got a really soft tongue. I like it when she licks my hand when I feed her.
Feng says, okay, I don't think you're allowed to be around Cecilia and Patrick anymore.
But she licks your hand all the time.
Yeah, but you made it sound creepy.
Oh, okay. I understand, I guess.
No, don't you dare.
I'm just doing it. I don't know what I'm just doing what you're telling me.
All right. Grick, what's wrong? Are you okay?
Yeah, Cecilia's got lots of like goop coming out of both ends. I don't really know what that is.
No, is there a reason?
Yes, I'm coming to you to tell you that there's goop coming out of your mantelope. Crick walks off. He's already told you the information.
Feng in this moment realizes that fuck it. Feng in this moment needs more intelligence, and he knows that the Okami eggs are his two last chances at getting more intelligence. Oh, God. So Feng
is going to crack an Okami egg into his...
Feng is going to reach into his bag and he's going to say, do you know what? I don't have the intelligence to deal with this situation right now, so I'm going to use my second last chance to get smarter.
Can I just stop quickly? Denny's going to shout out quickly. But before you do that, though, can you go outside?
Yeah, why's that?
Are you not going... Do you not remember when you exploded?
Yeah, okay, I'll go outside.
Thank you, we're eating in here.
Feng will go outside and try to eat an Okami egg.
Denny will come to in case Feng dies again.
Why not?
Alright, I need a constitution saving throw.
Oh.
That's an 18.
DC is 20.
Oh.
Feng, you crack this Okami egg. It's almost like when you get a boiled egg out of the fridge where you like break it on your head a little bit and then you just swallow the whole egg. You cannot keep it down.
No!
Munt up what you had for breakfast yesterday forward and take 63 points of force damage as you see Feng pass out into his stew.
I'm not dead.
Are you unconscious?
I'm unconscious.
Denny's gonna grab a little vial of soup that has healing properties and is going to pour it into Feng's mouth. That is a homebrew feature that works with the chef feat, basically gets a health potion instead of, +3 temporary hit points. It works as a health potion does. So
Sick.
12 on an action or roll for it as a bonus action. But we're not in combat, so as an action you just get 12 back.
Beautiful. Feng stirs with those 12 hit points and looks at Denny and he says, Denny, I've only got one more chance to get smarter. How do I make sure I can keep this stupid egg down?
I can try to cook it into something for you if you would like.
Maybe that's a good idea, but maybe I shouldn't try yet. Maybe I'm not ready.
Yeah, I think maybe wait until you are rested once again before trying it another time. You might die if you do it again right now.
Another time.
After the first week, a crisp golden-orange evening befalls the Halyghast as the sun dips once again below the horizon, with the twin moons appearing closer and closer with each passing day. Their light begins to commingle more and more with that of the setting sun. Purples, reds, and streaks of vibrant blue and green caress the sky and seemingly usher the ship along, bathing it in light. Grick brings up the mantelopes, and Patrick watches Cecilia carefully with beady eyes as she glides around the masts, calling softly. Patrick is still in his splint, but he is recovering well. It's a nice quiet moment here on the ship. And so, let's just give me a little perception check, please, guys, everyone at the party.
Okay.
That always goes well.
Then he got a 21.
Louis got a 25.
Feng got a 17.
Lysandra's doing amazing, got a 7.
Yes, Lysandra.
Denny and Louis, with those perception checks, you are able to see this. Cumulus clouds roll forward from the setting sun, blotches of fluffy meringue dusted and accented by the colours around them like highly decorated artisanal treats. But then you see these clouds are not so laissez-faire in their trajectory. And sure enough, a cautionary hoot as Charity shouts down from the nest to prepare the ship. Patrick starts calling, bleating incessantly, and Cecilia swoops down to him before being ushered quickly below deck by Grick.
Good.
You all see this now. The clouds are circling above the ship appear to be flying rather than floating. And sure enough, appendages and sparkling membrane can be seen amongst them, along with the occasional face. After deeming the ship non-threatening, the clouds disperse into swarms of small, agile wyverns, expelling a vapor breath to keep themselves concealed. These beasts are silvery blue, fading to white at the horns, tails, and wings. What is more miraculous is that they appear to be ridden by tiny beings. Their forms roiling and writhing concentrated vapor into lithe humanoid dragon riders, bound to their steeds by wispy cords of a strange metal, and they peer down at the Halyghast. What do you do next? And this will determine whether you make a persuasion or intimidation check.
So looking up at these creatures, are they like looking for communication or basically like an hailing?
They just came across you and are now observing you and wanting to know what you are.
Oh, of course. Louis has kind of been observing how these clouds and colours have formed and kind of has a little bit of a comparison to how her own magic kind of manifests. So I think she's going to just cast a little bit of prestidigitation, kind of mimicking the sort of cloud forms and vapor in kind of almost like dancing little figures to sort of draw them down and closer to try to invite them into a dance almost to get them to come down and have a chat with us maybe.
You see, make me a persuasion check.
Sure thing. Fortunately, that is only an 8.
Ooh.
But I have lucky, so I'm going to re-roll.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Natural 20.
Yes.
Sorry, 25. I think that manifests as Louis goes to kind of cast out this prestidigitation and then accidentally sends it a little bit aggressively and kind of like starts almost like gesturing for these things to come closer and gets a little aggressive and she's like, no, and then adjusts to their kind of pattern of flight and sort of just dances with them down.
You do see you initially scare the wyverns, but keep in mind the largest of these wyvern is still no bigger than, say, a wolf. Descends and hovers mere feet from the edge of the ship. You see its rider, a thick-set cloud elemental with bands of the same metal across their chest. They sit upon a crude saddle with small bags and rolls securely attached, and the elemental is watching all of the wellspringers carefully. Holly descends from the captain's wheel and says, "Oh, does anyone here speak primordial?"
Feng shakes his head.
Lysandra shakes her head as well.
Louis does not speak primordial.
Then he goes, oh, I have an answer for that. No.
Actually, sorry, Louis going to cast Tongues. This spell grants the creature you touch the ability to understand any spoken language it hears. Moreover, when the target speaks, any creature that knows at least one language and can hear the target understands what it says.
So how many people can you affect with this?
I can one person.
Just one.
Yeah.
You see, Louis, you begin casting that spell on yourself. Holly barks an order at Finkel, who brings up this, like, frosty, iced flagon of comprehend language potions and starts handing it out to everyone else in the crew.
Sick.
As this is happening, Lysandra, Charity, you feel Charity's wing beats as she lands next to you, and she just says quietly, "Do you know what these things are?"
Charity! Don't scare me like that. I thought we established this.
You're scared of me?
Yes, you're very terrifying.
You know I have hollow bones, right?
And you snuck up on me.
I'm actually quite proud of that. But anyway, you know what these things are?
No, I don't. Do you?
You can roll a religion check for me.
That's a 5.
You will see Charity has to lean into your ear and she whispers to you that these are known as cloud wyverns and they are revered by the followers of Kufta, which is her subsect of the Priory of Sky, as the mischievous offspring of Kufta and are said to snap at the heels of weather bands to move them across the sky. But she says nothing about air elementals or cloud elementals. So as she's saying this to you, Lysandra, Finkel hands around the big pot of comprehend languages, and you are all able to understand what the small dragon rider begins to say. They introduce themselves to you as Chief Ruin and describes themselves as the Unbound. His group of elementals are untethered, and they are curious as to ones as heavy and material as you can also defy the limits of ground.
What the fuck is that supposed to
Yeah.
mean?
He explains to you, we and our chargers are born of the sky. How is it you claim this gift?
Feng will just try to assume the first mate position and represent the crew, and he'll be like, I mean, the way to fly is different for many different cities and cultures and groups, so I suppose you have your way. And he's going to note down to the wyverns and make a mental note to try and make sure Promi grows big enough so he can fly Promi one day. And gesture to the ship. He's like you've got your wyverns, this ship is what helps us fly, I guess. Is that what you're asking?
You see the elemental nods and a few others begin to whisper behind him, and the nomad turns to you and says, we watch and observe while others pillage, plunder and interfere. There is quiet clarity amongst the clouds, and here we are safe. But where is it that you are travelling to?
Feng's interest is piqued when he says that these elementals and these wyverns watch the skies and stuff, and he'll ask in that moment, oh, how long have you and your group been watching? Like watching the skies of Nua?
Chief Ruin looks at you and says, our ancestors have been watching since we were rent asunder here, a millennia, eon ago. Since the creating of this world, it was made in chaos, and so we observe it to make sure it stays away from that place again.
Feng in this moment is probably realizing that this group might have a lot of information and things that they need, but might not like that they're going to the realm of shadow, so he's trying to work out if there's a way around that. And Feng will kind of look over at Holly when they ask what our mission is to see if her facial expression changes at all and if she gives across any sign to me that it's okay to let them know what we're doing.
You hear in your head as Holly casts the message cantrip.
Ooh.
Darling, I don't think we're going to have many more hospitable guests between now and Shadowfell. I would say save your ire for those who are clearly out to get us, not humble nomads.
I can respond to the message cantrip, can't I?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just quickly respond and say, okay, I'm going to let them know, but just be prepared to, I guess, defend in case they respond poorly to this.
Just Shadowfell, nothing after.
And Feng will lead on from that, verbally responding to the air elementals and say, to answer your question earlier, we are traveling to the land of shadows, Shadowfell.
It's hard to describe a concerned expression upon a face made of air, but you do see the actual tangibleness of the air elemental darkens, almost like a storm cloud, as you mentioned shadow fell.
It's like an angry fart.
Yeah.
Chief Ruin explains to you that the land of shadow, not to mention the route to get there, is fraught and cursed. No light reaches its shores and is bathed in the half-light of the moon. And as they say, where half-light lingers, half-life flourishes. There are some places of merit he grants, as is everywhere, but beings such as yourselves, whole, true, born to the warmth of the sun, have no business in the Umbra Isles.
Feng's going to kind of stand up a little bit, try to exert some confidence, not something that he's used to doing, and he's going to respond and say, well, I know that light doesn't really permeate there, but let's just say the people on this ship are pretty powerful. I'm one of them, and I'm going to cast the 3rd level daylight spell in this moment. Breaking through the clouds behind them, I want this sun to like pierce down, almost like some backlight, creating a silhouette in front of us. And Feng will just say, I don't know, maybe I'll be the one to bring light to Shadowfell after all.
You see as this light banishes the sunset for a moment, and it seems like midday again. Below deck, rogues are looking up as light shafts are coming through the slots. Like, what is happening? You see Cecilia and Patrick return now that the coast is clear and start to literally bask in Feng's magic. And you see even Patrick starts to kind of like flop and try and get off the ground to fly a little bit. And with that, you see, again, hard to say, hard to describe an air elemental looking impressed, but
Yeah, what do their facial expressions look like?
Partially.
Yeah.
Expressions.
Chief Ruin says to you, very well. If destiny calls you there, we are honor bound to help our brethren who share the sky. Chief Ruin reaches to a pouch on his wyvern and extends his long arms to deposit 3 charms in your hands, Feng. Give me an investigation check.
Investigation, okay.
Can I help with this?
Yes.
Yes, I do have investigation.
As long as you're proficient.
I am.
Thank you. That will be a 13 down to a 12.
2 of these charms are made from the same metal as worn by the chief, and depict a wyvern devouring its own tail. The chief explains that these charms are worn by their own dragons for their protection. This charm will give a beast will give any attacker of the beast who wears it disadvantage on all ranged attacks until it is hit. So it's basically a cloak of displacement for a charge, and you see he's given you 1 each, 1 for Patrick and 1 for Cecilia.
Did you say there was 3?
The third one is made from a different, strange black material. It's smooth and flat, with one side covered in undulating parallel ridges like bark or the underside of a mushroom.
Oh,
The black stone is flecked internally with vivid green flecks, like an opal almost. The chief does not know the purpose of this charm, only that it was discovered upon the riverbeds of Shadowfell as a fossil. The chief's ancestors believed the charm was to help ward evil.
Feng tries to put it on himself.
Before you do that,
I'm joking.
Can Denis taste it?
I mean, if you want.
Yeah, can Denis spend 10 minutes casting Identify by licking this thing until he knows exactly what it is and how magical it is?
Yeah, Feng goes to respond to the air elementals, and before he can, Denny grabs the objects from his hands and starts licking them.
The second that Denny hears that they don't know what it is, he's like, I don't want to lick anything.
It's a 4-year-old with a Tide Pod, just straight in.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to offend anyone by eating historical relics, but if you guys don't know what they are, I'm going to figure out what they are. And puts the charm in his mouth.
You find basically everything that I said. You know about the displacement magic that is on the 2 charms for the wyverns. But for Feng's charm, it seems purely sentimental. Like, this actually is what people would say would just be something that wards away evil. Like, garlic would be for vampires.
Oh.
Like, maybe it does ward away evil, but there's no magical ward on it.
Sure, right.
Do I get the sense that the material wouldn't burn?
Yes, considering it's petrified stone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sweet. I guess Feng will look at Denny spitting the charm out of his mouth and look back to the air elementals and make sure that they haven't gotten angry at that we haven't annoyed them and offended them.
No eyes to tell.
Feng doesn't do well when he can't read facial expressions, and Feng will, in this moment, I just say, thank you very much. So I suppose this is something that we can use to help us get to Shadowfell. Is there anything else that we should be aware of that you know of?
You see he looks back down to you, Feng, and addresses the Wellspringers. Soon you will reach the frozen archipelago. That is just where we have been. Fortunately, we were easily concealed and not much of a meal, but I cannot say the same for the material likes of you. That place is plagued by white dragons, hunting voraciously to sustain themselves in their winter desolation.
Sorry, dragons.
Yes, many. Making ours look like kittens. They have been patrolling the archipelago relentlessly, swarming and devouring anything in the sky or upon the ground.
Feng covers Cecilia and Patrick's ears.
However, we are wise to the antics of the white dragons, and they have never harried our passage west, for we know the thing that fears them, the wereworm. Feng, can you give me a nature check, please?
Wereworm? That's an 11.
You've never heard of a wereworm before. You know that the ancient wood elves tamed purple worms to dig their vast underground conclaves. And you know that purple worms are incredibly rare and have been hunted to near extinction in Nua for sport and glory, but you've never heard of a wereworm before. The chief continues. Like I said, the Umbra Isles attracts the foulest of the foul, and even the dragons dread the maw of the worm. Indeed, its voracious hunger has caused it to move westward into the White Dragon's territory in the first place, and they fear it deeply. The worm is great and terrible, leaving huge pits and crevasses in its wake before tunneling deep back down below the ice and soil to escape. And that is all the knowledge I can offer you.
Do they know where the closest worm is? If they're watching...
You see Holly snaps her fingers and Charity takes to the wing again and flies out and hovers over with a crowd of the other Wyvern riders, and they begin to put markings on her map for where the last sighting of the wereworm's tunnel was, if that can help you.
Because Feng will turn to everyone and he'll be like, I guess we kind of have to pick our poison. Do we want to fight dragons or a big wereworm, whatever that is?
I mean, do we have to pick out poison?
I'd rather not dragons. That, like, one worm we can hopefully try and avoid. If there's dozens and dozens of dragons, I don't like our chances there.
Maybe we can grow a dragon of our own.
Lysandra gets a flashback to when they were in the Burrows Keep and the little dragon that they fought there.
That was a bronze wormling.
Oh yeah, it wasn't even scary, but she sort of gets a shiver up her spine. Yeah, no, let's not do dragons.
Yeah, that thing kept me asleep the whole fight. Not a chance.
But it seems that the dragons are afraid of the worms, yes? So could we use the worms to avoid the dragons and potentially vice versa? Like, could we avoid all of these things altogether?
Yeah, for sure. Maybe if we can figure out what the worms eat or what they follow.
Or even if we just get into their tunnels and keep an eye out.
Yeah.
Will the ship fit in the tunnels? I don't know if I'm crazy here. I'm not that intelligent, but this big ship, will it go in the tunnels?
If Feng explains to you what a purple worm is, you know a purple worm is a gargantuan-sized creature.
Which is the size of these ships.
Cool.
Should fit, yes. Can Denis go up to the chief and ask them, excuse me, monsieur, you said that you patrolled the skies. Have you seen anybody else come this way recently?
Ooh. It's a 1 and a 7. They explain no, which is the reason why they flew to you so quickly, is because they thought they were the only ones this far out this type of year, because of the white dragon threat. But you do see on the map it is about a week until you will reach the frozen archipelago.
So how long has it been since we left Kefros, sorry?
A week.
Okay.
Could Denis say to the chief again, Some other people might be coming this way. We're all good. Do not let the other guys go. Or at the very least, do not tell them anything.
Right, well, we mostly have a habit of just keeping in our clouds and just moseying along.
Oh, yeah, no, you do not need to attack them or anything, but, we're pals now. You don't need to help them the way that you helped us.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. That's not really how nomads work, but we'll try our best.
Hey, you do what you want, man. I just trying to cover our tracks.
Over the next week, you are able to travel another 3,700 miles with only half a day behind schedule. So in the next week, you have now traveled a total of 11,100 miles, so about halfway through your expedition. The ship happenings from this week are starting to get a little bit spicier. Everything from that's happened with Plimp and Daisy, that is still boiling, but there are a few new things you have noticed. Charity. Given that it's becoming permanent gloom rather than day and night, Charity is a little wired and finds it hard to sleep at all because she's obviously nocturnal. This keeps her up into the early hours, meticulously drawing the constellations of the stars in relation to the moon to divine the position of the Halyghast. She notes the moons are changing slightly in their positioning, and the sun is having a weaker and weaker berth over the horizon. And one night, Lysandra, she says to you as you are huddling together in the bird's nest, Charity has a fear of crows.
So is she scared of kangaroos?
Very much so.
Oh, that's so funny.
She says to you, almost like you can see she's got bags under her eyes. She's not liking this at all, and she says, Lysandra, these measurements, it's almost as if the sea is flipping over itself, like we're traveling to like the underside of Nua itself. Does that not frighten you?
No. Does it frighten you?
Hell yeah, it frightens me.
Why?
I'm sorry. I spoke to you quietly yesterday and you nearly shat yourself, and now all of a sudden I'm being the frighty scary one?
You just came behind me and shocked me, okay? But this whole grand scheme of going somewhere we don't know is honestly rather exciting, wouldn't you say?
Yes, exciting. Yes, let's go with that.
I think you're really brave, Charity.
I know I am. I know I'm brave. I just want to be comfortable at the same time, you know?
So what can I do to make it more comfortable for you?
What was Yellen like? I mean, I knew her at the Priory, but you obviously knew her in Drób.
She was passionate. Not necessarily in the best way, but she did have a lot of things driving her to achieve different things. What was she like when you knew her in the Priory?
She was just like all of the other acolytes. Bright, committed, devoted, quiet. You know, the Priory, they don't really look for big egos and big charismas. But, I don't know, she had her certain quiet confidence, I think. But, Lysandra, aren't you driven by lots of things?
I am now.
So why are you here and she's there, doing what she's doing?
It wasn't my time to stay in Drób, especially not with all of that. She wanted me dead. She wanted my friends dead. In fact, she almost killed me. She is not doing things for being an acolyte or a cleric. She has something more sinister driving her, and I fear that it's going to ruin the people there. People like you and me who are taken in by these institutions and looked after and cared about, people that have passion, that have drive, and I fear that her control, her malevolence is only going to ruin them. So it wasn't right for me to stay, but I will go back, and I will stop her.
Lysandra, you are so much braver than I am, because, I don't know, part of me just thinks it would just be easier, wouldn't it? To just let Yellen do what she's doing? I mean, sure, people get hurt, but people get hurt every day. People get hurt for much worse, and for much less. So I struggle with it. As everyone in the Priory is struggling with it.
Something that's been playing on my mind, Charity. Lamara, do you know what happened to her?
She got sick. She was old, I will grant you, for a... Oh, Kenku. It was hard being her attendant, but, I got over it. And, look, everyone said how much of a boisterous old bird she was. And, she was still getting up, she could still preen herself, she could still do all the things. And then, during the space of no longer than a fortnight, she was bedridden and unresponsive.
And no one was able to heal her. With all the magic, all the power in this world, no one could fix her.
Roll me an insight check.
That's a 1!
Yeah, Sandra has an aneurysm. Falls out of the crow's nest.
Such classic Amber rolls. Just...
With a nat 1, she explains to you that, and maybe you get this, clerics don't control magic. They ask for magic from their gods, that they follow a certain doctrine and they're rewarded for it. Charity doesn't answer you, and her non-answer leaves you with the perspective of perhaps Kufta did not want her healed. Like, is it a case of them not being able to? Or is it a case of the god not willing it to happen?
I feel like that also leads to the potential that Persephone has made a stand against the other gods. Do you know what I mean? Because Yellen has made a warlock pact with Persephone, as far as we're aware.
Yeah.
And if the other clerics of the sky aren't able to heal the Deacon of Persephone, which
Is
Lamara, maybe Persephone's started a war against the gods. Maybe Yellen's right.
Oh god.
She's doing Persephone's bidding.
Who?
Yellen. Maybe Yellen's doing Persephone's bidding.
Yeah.
Don't add another theory to the mix of theories.
That's what D&D is.
Go off.
Oh my gosh.
Denny, you've been keeping around Finkel for a couple of days. The gnome is constantly improving and modifying the engine on the Halyghast on the fly, using the ores and smelter acquired from the dwarves to reinforce, refine, and rectify the ship. You see, he comes down to the mess hall periodically and asks to buy a tool or a solvent or something, which is you find very strange because you just rifle through his stuff and take whatever, never asking. And a few bits of gossip you get just from, just shooting the shit with another tinkerer. And he says, actually, make me an insight check.
Certainly. That is a 17.
You see Finkel has been worked to the bone. Way more than you would ever think would need to be, given the time that you've got to get to Shadowfell still. And he says to you, Denny, it seems our captain is quite nervous of spending too much time in Shadowfell, and she wants the ship in as best condition so we can make our adjustments for space travel as soon as we can. She doesn't want us waiting around there for too long.
Just back up a moment. Space travel?
Yes.
As in interplanetary, interstellar travel?
And you see Finkel points straight up, obviously pointing to the 2 moons of Nua. Right, which is the other thing which I wanted to speak to you about. Denny, how do I, and you see immediately flop sweat. It's getting caught underneath his eyes and these tears are going back into his eyes, making him cry more.
Finkel, before you go, I kind of have a thing going with Plimp already. And then there's a whole lot, I cannot have another person in this left way.
Oh, no, that's okay. Look, I think I actually might be asexual, actually.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah, so anyway, I wonder if I may run some tests on that marvellous knife of yours. You see, I feel I could almost reverse engineer some of the astral elements to recreate almost like an artificial atmosphere for the Halyghast. Crucial if we need to be, breathing.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Would you like some help with that?
Yeah, if you could just run me through how it works, who you purchased it from, the maker's mark, things like that.
Then he's going to produce his pocket plane knife and say, look, it is pretty simple. You cut a little hole in the air and go through it, and there's a little pantouin there. It was made by the goblins as far as I understand it, but to be perfectly honest, it seems like Ivan was a bit of a shyster, so I don't know if I trust him all that much.
Can you roll investigation check? I'll roll investigation check and we'll take the highest.
Certainly.
I rolled a 1, so...
Denis rolled a 5, which becomes a 12.
Great, wonderful. You see Finkel takes the knife of you and he gives it back to you in about 4 or 5 days, but he does take it off for some tests.
When he gives it back, can I make sure that it's all still working as normal?
It's all still working as normal, and you go into the pantry and you realise that someone has been in here and swept and dusted the place.
They've swept and dusted it?
Those cocksuckers. How dare they? It preserves their natural flavors.
Louis, one night on the Halyghast, you find a quiet space on the deck. You see there's really only the boatswain up here piloting at this point of night. Everyone else is asleep.
Is that me?
Yes.
Hey, Louis.
And you start to meditate. And considering you've just leveled and you are a creation bard, I need you to make me a pure charisma check for me as you try and connect to Quig.
With the conversations that Louis has been having recently with Lysandra and with Holly about the nature of why she's here and how she is, she wants to focus a little bit more on this, whatever is happening with the souls, especially with the warnings of things with half-life and that, like, lack of life in the Shadowfell can have, like, a stronger connection. She wants to see if maybe now they're closer, she can try to connect to Quig, which is the only kind of soul that she knows that is close except for hers.
Oh, interesting. Are the souls becoming more put together the closer we get to Shadowfell almost?
Just seeing if that, like, if that veil's a little thinner, to see if I can get through to Quig a little more, to be like, hey, what the heck is actually happening on the other side?
Interesting. Feng will just be like watching, just in case.
What's your passive perception, Louis?
Passive perception is 17.
Okay, go.
Charisma? It's a 7. I'm going to use a luck point.
Okay.
I'm going to use my last luck point.
Oh.
Try switching dice.
Come on.
Please. That's so much better. Okay, that is an 18 plus 4, so a 22.
Nice.
For 22, Louis, you are meditating here for a while, just focusing on your breath, knowing where Susanna is and kind of focusing on that point to try and re-manifest this magic. And just when you think that you're not able to connect any deeper, the humming of the ship dulls and starts to quieten. And as you open your eyes, you see standing in front of you this semi-translucent sphere of light just floating there in front of you.
Does it feel familiar? Does it feel warm?
Very familiar. I'm going to help you out here. You're a creation bard. I'm going to say you don't really have much control over what's happening now. What energy are you putting out in reaction to this? Are you frightened of this and want it to go away and you don't want to be seen? Or do you want to hold it? Not physically.
No. I'm thinking in terms of how, like, character-wise she is. Louis has always been a person that has held on to things too tight. It's the reason why she's out here in the first place. She's searching for connections that other people severed. She holds on to the ideals of a life that she no longer lives. And so, though there may be a bit of trepidation, I don't think she can do anything except clutch on to the hope that she has in her heart here.
And you see, as Louis, you extend your hand closer, you see the orb becomes brighter and brighter. And you start to hear fluttering dragonfly wings.
She is crying at this point as she just keeps moving towards it.
Just as your fingertips are about to touch the soul that you have coaxed out of the ship itself, with a nat 20 on her perception check, you hear Holly behind you clear her throat. And in that moment you lose concentration. The orb dips back into the ship and the humming resumes.
Holly, good evening.
I'm trying really hard here to give you the benefit of the doubt, Louis.
About? What do you think I'm doing? What do you think I'm up to?
I don't know what you're up to. I can just see what you're doing, though. No person should have this power, you know this. And this is coming from me.
I'm very well aware. And I am trying to work out how to stop all of this, how to fix it, how to not be here anymore. There's a lot of me that doesn't make sense. There's a lot of power about what I am that I don't understand, and I'm trying to get through it so that I can go and everything can be fine again. Why do you read so deeply into things? I know you're a deeply mistrustful person. Have I not proven myself at this point?
I know power, Louis, and no one with that much power is that noble. The snow and sleet that has been battering the Halyghast for weeks now has solidified into a thick and persistent snowfall. The crew has extra duties in thawing ice from the pulleys and shoveling snow from the top deck and the entrance to the captain's quarters. Denis' cooking pot and the arcane engine become popular places of downtime on board, as they are the two places one can truly feel some relief from the biting cold. The vista before you represents a vast archipelago with small, steep islands permeating the frozen and shifting sea between them. Some icebergs are just as, if not bigger, than the islands themselves. The only way to tell between them is the existence of some small, pathetic and scraggly pines clinging to what frozen soil they can. The days are getting ever darker. And so, tricks of the light draw your attention downwards, as the snowdrift looks like the tail of a dragon, or the shadows of trees looking like frozen moors, eager to strike upwards and swallow the Halyghast whole. Every now and then, in the demi-gloom, a roar or a crash can be heard from below, a collapsing ice sheet, a shearing glacier, or something more sinister with sharp teeth and cold breath. The sun sets on the crew of the Halyghast one last time. Too late now to return to the light. And that is where we will end our session.
I do not trust Charity.
No.
Not at all.
I don't trust any of my NPCs.
I trust Blimp.
Yeah,
I only trust
Blimp to do that thing.
I only trust what you can find.
That's my motto in life.
Was Feng standing there awkwardly for that Louis and Holly conversation?
What's your passive?
14 perception.
Yeah. I think you maybe saw parts of it.
Good.
I mean, you would have seen you would have heard the ship stop humming and you would have
Yes.
seen a bright glow.
Enough
Yes.
perception to notice, enough wisdom to know not to interrupt.
I wasn't going to interrupt, but I think you'll talk to Holly about that.
Talk to Holly, not me. Okay?
Yeah.
So would it have been a crazy idea to try and disguise the ship as some sort of dragon
That was what I was
beast
thinking,
thing?
but I don't
I was
think
going to say
like white
that
sails,
we
right?
can do this for the next
No,
episode.
but I'm just like, that could be crazy. So maybe next week.
I got thoughts on that.
A massive thanks again to Twisted Pint Tavern for their guide to ships of sailing, which we have been using for our homebrew setting here. Make sure you check out their homebrew content at Twisted Pint Tavern on YouTube and Patreon. Do we have any selfless plugs for today, gang?
Yeah, I got one. A few weeks ago now, it was my birthday, and my lovely housemate bought me some brand new fancy dice from Rune Dice. They're a really cool website and company that makes some really awesome dice. So, yeah, if you're enjoying this content, you probably want some fancy little math rocks. Rune Dice, they're great.
I fucking love dice. I want more dice.
Clickety clackety doodats.
I want some weighted dice.
Like Emerson's.
Yeah.
Like Emerson's way.
I just feel like
Yeah, exactly.
I buy them in bulk from Amazon. Don't forget to follow us on our socials at Down Under Dungeon Pod or from our link tree. Send us or tag us in any of your fan art, and you can always reach us by email at downunderdungeonpod@gmail.com. Also, if you're feeling very generous, please give us a 5-star rating on both Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and we will see you next week.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.